Welcome everyone, I'm Enter the Hero, and today we're gonna be talking about Capcom's 3D hack and slash stylish hero action game, Sengoku BASARA for Sumeragi. This game is a Japan exclusive, originally released for the PS3, then the PS4, and then the PS4 again, and was developed and published by everyone's favorite, Capcom. Sengoku BASARA for Sumeragi, with an expanded version, features additional cast even compared to 4 vanilla, including but not limited to old friends and new friends and even a bear. New friends such as the 2-in-1 deal Sengoku Q, local gambling addict and Emperor Ashikaga Yoshiteru, and certified dear child Yamanaka Bambish Kenosuke. The game's main mode is titled Sengoku Creation and follows a warlord of your choosing, taking land, running up criminals, and doing anime battles to unite all of Nihon. But this sounds like a great burden for one to bear, doesn't it? Well, rejoice viewer, as thanks to the war buddy mechanic, you will be accompanied by another warlord of your choice, controlled either by the AI or possibly an accomplice thanks to the game's drop-in drop-out local co-op. As it was in the days of yore, your warlords have their own progression, although this time it is not simply tied to their bling and weapons, but also a traditional RPG leveling up system that in no time at all unlocks the rest of their moveset. Not to mention that while different armor pieces that exist solely for stats are gone, you still have separate outfits, as well as weapons that come with their own stats, that you can also additionally raise. Some of them give you more money when you sell them, some of them give you an edge in combat, and some of them give an accurate representation of my prowess at this game. Not to forget that since we're talking about Sumeragi, you're also able to raise your stats to double the amount, to 3100 and 1500, thanks to the new limit break weapons that come in the Basara. Speaking of which, the Basara is where you'll get your additional outfits and heirloom weapons alongside the limit break weapons using specialty coins you receive by interacting with the game's main theme, gambling. Since a lot of the game is centered around taking out Yoshiteru, a lot of the game is also centered around gambling in various forms. Battled around the maps, or enemies with roulette wheels on their backs that once defeated, trigger a spin of the roulette wheel, which may cause something bad to befall you, such as the holiest bank, but it may also result in enemies that drop specialty coins when hit, spawning all around you for a while, or cause you to turn into one of a selection of otherwise unplayable characters, making an utter force out of the game's difficulty in the process sometimes. But wait, there is more, for you see, you can also gamble in the menus, using special mallet strikes to reroll the rewards the mission will give you, in hopes that you'll get the lucky golden mallet and thus stand to gain great splendor. But beware, as getting an unlucky strike on these is the only way to get rusty weapons, at least as far as I'm aware. You can also use these mallet strikes to randomly upgrade a stat of whichever weapon you have highlighted in the appropriate menu, the amount of which is determined by the quality of the strike. There's no cause for fear here though, as unlucky strikes don't seem to exist. And now that I'm done detailing how wide the gambling reaches, I also have to note that if you don't like these mechanics, the ones in the menus are easy to ignore, and the ones in gameplay can be turned off. But since we just got talking of modifying stuff, we might as well hit modifiers too. This game allows you to choose up to 3 modifiers to spice up your gameplay on any one level. And these modifiers can be more basic, helpful things like dealing more damage or getting an instant resurrection when downed, but they can also be used to make the game harder by doing things like limiting your character to level 1, or just plain change the feel of the game by changing your subordinate's manner of speech. Going back to Sengoku Creation for a spell, characters have 2, sometimes 3 routes they can take. These being your regular route where you overtake Japan, the drama route which generally deals with more interpersonal issues, and the anime route where you can see these cool animated cutscenes made by Production IG, the same studio behind seasons 1 and 2 of the Sengoku BASARA anime. Also of note is that while you need to complete a full run to gain a character's regular ending, you have a choice between transitioning to the drama or anime routes in these regular runs, as well as a choice to just skip to either of these routes for a battle before beginning a run. And I'm calling these runs because while the game does have the overarching story of taking down Yoshiteru, it is structured much more like an arcade ladder with choices rather than strictly linearly. Of course, your choices in this ladder are also influenced by those around you, because you're not the only one trying to unify Japan, so certain levels may become inaccessible, or to the contrary, open up, depending on just who is still partaking in this race to the top. But speaking of levels, just how varied are they? Well, as you'd imagine from a game of this genre, most levels consist of you cleaving your way through hordes of enemies on a warpath to kill the enemy general or generals, but Sengoku BASARA for Sumeragi also has duels which are quite self-explanatory, as well as some levels that try to break the norm through various means. What if you had to find and ring hidden bells before you could fight the enemy generals? What if you had to slice and dice not just mere humans, but food humans in an upsized cooking show, twice? What if you had to play hide and seek with the head chef before that? What if the local wildlife decided you owed them protection money? What if the game suddenly became an on-rails shooter for no discernible reason? These are among the questions Sengoku BASARA for Sumeragi is not afraid to ask. To make note of the game's presentation as well, the models are a bit aged, but to me that is justified by the amount of models the game has on screen at once, and even if one were to discard that, they still hold up better than they would otherwise thanks to the game's stylized graphics. Although the game can have some goofy moments where people are showcasing how great their ventriloquism is. As for the music, the game's original soundtrack is fine, albeit I wouldn't say it's anything to write home about. The game also features Double Deal by Takano Makes Evolution as its main theme, which is of note because like any good cheesy battle shonen, this game also plays the main theme during the final battle, no matter how many final battles you'll have. So all in all, Sengoku Basara for Sumeragi is quite satisfactory. The levels are generally varied enough, the characters are definitely varied enough. Really, the biggest negatives I can raise against it is that past a point you'll wish it had more levels. It also never released in the West, which might make acquiring and understanding the game a bit more difficult. As a side note, I can read Japanese and only understand like maybe 5 words, so as long as you're willing to put up with some trial and error and a couple of guides, you'll be fine without any substantial Japanese knowledge. All of which leads me to believe that it's fair if I give this game an 8 out of 10. By the way, I use the many style of quick scale video for anything, but that was bad. Earned about 10 quick scale rating, I can understand this shit. Also, the review is only 3 months, instead of taking my opinion, so please scale it by 40 seconds. But really, at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is that Sengoku Basara for Sumeragi is good. Real good. Oh boy. Do the impression anymore, can I? Oh well. See you next time.